Franchising is the most misunderstood and most overlooked form of entrepreneurship. We're here to educate you and help you find the entrepreneur within. Franchising is not all about the French fries.
We find that individuals who are exploring business ownership tend to have a lot of misperceptions and misunderstandings about the franchise industry. So what we want to do is help prospective business owners make confident and educated decisions before moving forward or not moving forward with a business. Welcome to Unpredicted Entrepreneur.
Hello, and welcome to episode 90 of Unpredicted Entrepreneur. I am Sara Waskow, and I'm joined by my colleague, Roxanne Rapske. And we created this podcast to bring you information about franchising and business ownership. And we are thrilled to welcome our guests today. Our guests are the founders of Homestretch. We have Derek Schumann and Nick Lobert, and they co-founded this business. They have a very intriguing story. So Nick and Derek, welcome to Unpredicted Entrepreneur. We're thrilled to have you today.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. We're excited.
Well, thanks for joining us. We know you're at a conference and you took time out of your busy day to join us, and we are very grateful for that. We always like to start with your background. You guys co-founded this franchise a few years ago. You have a great story about how this all came about. So one of you, please share with us how this all began.
Yeah, so we started this. What we do is we cosmetically get homes ready to sell. We offer home clear outs, painting, carpeting, cleaning, and light landscaping to get homes looking better for a higher ROI. So Derek and I, ironically, we were grade school friends. We went to different high schools, different colleges, kind of lost touch for about 15, 20 years. And we both ended up working at an online auction house together, where people were selling their personal property. And what we noticed was a massive need for people needing services to help them cosmetically get their homes ready. So Derek and I started this in 2019. And since then, we have 3 corporate locations, 37 new franchises, 70 plus territories. And that's all happened in the last 6 years. And it's really kind of taken off. Anything you'd like to add to that, Derek?
No, it's a great summary of kind of our story.
I mean, did you run into each other in the hall or something? I mean, it was just really odd how you ended up connecting at your corporate job. So tell us a little bit more about that, and then kind of how, becoming business partners evolved from there.
Yeah. So I'm from Cincinnati originally. Nick and I went to grade school, like you mentioned. And then after I graduated college, I moved out to Washington, D.C. to work in finance for my first job, and started my first business out in Washington, D.C. and sold that business in 2014. So I was looking to move back to the Midwest in about 2015. We just had our first son, and all our family was kind of back in Ohio. So I ended up moving back, and I was kind of burnt out from my startup experience and just wanted to work for a company to recharge my batteries and figure out the next step. So this company in Ohio called Everything But the House had raised a ton of money and was really doing some innovative stuff on the online auction estate sale platform. And I wanted to work for them. So I ended up getting an interview with that company. And as I was waiting to get called into my interview, a couple of people were walking down the hall, and then this one person kind of caught my eye, and I had to do a double take. And I was like, "That's Lobert?" And I hadn't seen him in about 20 years, since 8 or whatever. So ultimately I got a job at that company that Nick was working at. We ended up working in the same department. I kind of saw firsthand just all these skills that he brought to the table in sales and ideas and energy and customer relationships. A lot of the stuff that he's a lot better at than me. So in the back of my mind, just kind of being a consummate entrepreneur, I thought to myself, man, if we ever have another idea, this would be a perfect person to start a business with.
Wow. That's so great. And then, as you mentioned, you found this need. You worked for a company, but there was a shortage of what you guys ended up innovating through Homestretch. You really felt like you were going to be able to fill a void. So just tell us a little bit more about kind of how you created this company, to your point, Derek, Nick's got skill sets that you don't have and vice versa. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about kind of how you partner together and how your business evolved from your initial idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we noticed in the auction space was you have to have nice, high-end, valuable stuff to have a profitable estate sale. So we weren't able to help every single client sell their stuff because not everyone has high-end valuables to sell. So what we noticed was while we're at Everything But the House, we weren't able to help every single client for an estate sale, but every single client has a little bit of trash. Everyone has some stuff in the basement, some stuff in the garage that they need to get rid of. So that was kind of the tip of the spear. That's where a lot of it started from, was doing home clear outs. So we thought, well, what if we had a company that serviced the home clear out space? And there's already a lot of companies doing that. 1-800-GOT-JUNK, Junk King, Junk Luggers. There's probably 5-10 different franchises in that space. So we started thinking, what else do these clients need? I remember talking to one particular client, and it took her about 6 months to sell her house after we did an estate sale. And I said, what took so long? And she said, well, we needed to paint the home. We needed to carpet it. We had to empty it. We had to do landscaping. And we just kind of had this aha moment. And we started frantically Googling who is servicing the home cosmetic space. And there wasn't a single solution to help as a one-stop shop to help people get their houses ready to sell. And I'm sure Derek can add some additional context there also.
Yeah, I think you hit a lot of it. It was just kind of that constant observation of, a lot of our clients at Everything But the House were going through traumatic life events, a death or a downsize or putting their mom into assisted living. And they were stressed out. And, while we helped them kind of monetize their valuables, to Nick's point, the biggest asset that they were worried about wasn't necessarily the artwork or the jewelry or the couch. It was their house. And it was kind of that aha moment of, man, like if there were this white glove kind of one-stop shop service to really alleviate the stress that people were going through life transitions to get the house ready to sell, that could be a game changer. So that's kind of where the kernels of Homestretch came from. And in 2019, Nick and I quit our jobs, and it was just me, him, and his truck kind of going down this path of proving whether or not there was a need for what we thought was going to be a huge market.
I just thought of something while you were saying that. So there's two sides to this coin. There's the people that don't do anything to their house. A lot of times these homes have been owned for many, many, many years. They haven't been updated. So you've got the companies that kind of say, we buy ugly homes, and they offer you lower than market value, I would say. And then, so they buy the home, they get it off your hands, and then they do all that work, and then they turn around and they flip that for a profit. Mm-hmm. So that's one choice, right? Letting it go for less money, or bringing in someone like Homestretch where they don't have to deal with all that on their own. They're having somebody handle all that for them and get it into prime shape, and then you get top dollar for it.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Our philosophy and one of our missions is we want our homeowners to get the upside of this investment. We don't want them to have to lowball their house to get it off to an investor that's trying to, buy low as they can so they can do these cosmetic improvements and then sell for the profit. Our goal is to make this easy, painless, fast for the homeowner and the real estate agent. So when they go to sell their house, they're putting real money in their pocket, which can be life-changing for a lot of people, especially if they're using the money to maybe put their parents into assisted living or move to their dream house. Like your house is your biggest asset, and you only have so many opportunities to kind of maximize on that asset. And that's one of Homestretch's missions, is to kind of put that equity back in the homeowner's pocket.
How does that work for the homeowner? Are they so for the work that's being done, is that paid through close of escrow, or is there like a short-term loan that's done? Do they have to have the cash to do this stuff up front? So how does the homeowner pay for that?
We have a couple options. So we have a national partnership with a company called Waskow, which provides short-term financing to homeowners that are looking to make, improvements such as what Homestretch can provide. Mm-hmm. There's no prepayment penalties with Waskow, and interest can be very competitive based on your credit score. So it can be a very nice solution for a lot of people to kind of take a short-term loan out, finance these projects, and then when the house sells, they can kind of pay that loan off with no prepayment penalties. That's one option that we bring to all of our locations across the country. Our standard mode of operation is kind of half upfront and then half at closing, which is more the traditional model. But in certain instances, we do work with vetted real estate agents and clients where we'll defer our fee until the closing of the property.
Got it.
So basically the way we operate is we want to make, this as painless as possible. We want to give our clients a variety of options so they can choose what works best for them and ultimately invest back in their house so they can get the upside.
Okay. Good. That's good to know.
Yeah, really good to know. And, it makes perfect sense. So you started this in 2019. You have 3 corporate locations. Is that right? And then
That's correct.
Yep.
And then at what point did you decide, okay, we're going to franchise this?
It's about 2.5, 3 years ago, we decided to franchise. We didn't really know the franchise space all that well. So we kind of were looking around, how do we franchise this business? And at that point, we knew what we didn't know. And one of Derek and I's, many strengths is we know what we're not good at. Like, for example, design and marketing. That's not our background. Derek's a finance guru, great at operations. I'm sales, real estate, construction. But, design and marketing and franchising, we didn't understand that. So we partnered with the Rapske group. It would have been almost January of last year is when we started officially selling franchises. So we made the decision about a year prior to that. We didn't know what we didn't know. We partnered with Rapske. They're an unbelievable partner. We hit it off with Nick and Rob right away. They bring a lot of value to the table. So they focus on bringing new qualified franchisees into the system. And then that allows us and our corporate team to focus on really developing our current franchisees. So all of our focus can be on supporting the new franchisees.
So you went through the process of having an attorney create a franchise disclosure document for you. So now you're a franchisor, and now you're like, okay, where do the franchisees come from, right?
Well, I joked with Derek. I go, okay, say we identify a city. Am I just going to start cold calling Cleveland and say, hey, does anyone want to buy Homestretch? So we didn't know where to start.
Yeah.
And so that's when we met with the Rapske group. And it's a long story how we got, some Cincinnati connections through Cycle Bar and St. Gregory group, how we got connected up with the Rapske group. Cincy's a small, big town. And ironically, we had some mutual connections. But yeah, exactly. We went through the lawyer, got the FDD. And then it was like, we stared at each other for an hour and said, now what? And that's when we knew we don't know what we're doing. Let's partner with people who have experience doing this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very smart decision.
Yeah.
Very smart, because becoming a franchise is completely different than running the business as an independent business.
Yeah.
So tell us what some of your aha moments have been after becoming a franchise.
I think our biggest aha moment was, when we were trying to figure out who the right profile of candidates to join Homestretch was, like for us, it ultimately boiled down to, the people themselves. Like part of what we wanted to do at the outset is create a really dynamic culture where everybody kind of believed in our mission of becoming the national leader in the home preparation space. And we got people in the door that truly wanted to create big businesses. And I think that's what unique about Homestretch is it's a really good opportunity for somebody that wants to be an entrepreneur with the guardrails and the processes that we provide. But with our business, it's a little bit different from some other opportunities in the sense that, with our business model, we're not asking people to spend a ton of money on paid marketing and kind of sit back and wait for the leads to come in. We're really going out to market, developing true relationships with real estate agents and referral sources, and kind of building a moat around this business that will kind of carry over for years and years and years. So getting the right people that wanted to kind of build a business that way, that wanted to kind of roll up their sleeves and grow an empire, was probably the biggest lesson we learned early. And that really helped us kind of hone in our candidate profile to get those type of people into the door.
Yeah, I think that's a struggle for many franchisors is finding the right people up front. I hear a lot of feedback that they made mistakes with the first ones. They get so excited. Somebody wants to buy their business. They can write a check. So they just bring in anybody and then have some regrets about that down the road once they kind of figure stuff out. So
absolutely.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys had that figured out in advance. So that's good. That's good. So remind me, you said it early, but I don't remember now. You've been franchising for 1 year or 2 years?
First franchisee signed January 2024. So about 1 year ago.
And you have how many franchisees now?
37.
37. That's amazing.
And how many territories sold?
80, I believe.
Wow.
Around 80.
So a lot of multiple territories.
Yeah. Our typical franchisee, I think, is buying around 2 to 3 territories is kind of that sweet spot. We have larger territories. Currently it's 200,000 households minimum. So it does give somebody kind of a big template to build that big type business that we're looking for.
So other than Empire Builders, who else makes a good Homestretch franchisee? What are you looking for?
People with a strong business development background, or if they don't have a strong business development background, willing to hire that position. Really, it boils down to this. If you can build long-lasting relationships with realtors and be their reliable service provider, you can succeed in this business. So we really do need, and like Derek had mentioned earlier, instead of spending, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 on Google ads every single month, we take that money, invest it in a business development person to build those relationships with the realtors. So it can either be a hired position or the franchise owner themselves, but that is really necessary, to build those relationships. And, that's where you start to build the business and get the leads and kind of get it off the ground.
And then I would assume once that happens and you prove yourself and those realtors are now selling the houses for more than they potentially would have otherwise, a lot of that's going to be referrals because they talk.
Exactly. Once you become reliable and they know they can count on you and they can call you on a Monday, you can get a quote Monday afternoon and you can start the project within a couple days. That's really what they're looking for. The agents are looking for reliability, speed, and a quality product. And if you can give them those 3 items, they will keep coming back. And that is another good point that when we first started this, it was for the homeowners. It was to help people going through death, divorce, downsize, relocation. We really didn't know the massive need for realtors. In certain situations, they don't have reliable contractors. They don't have reliable vendors in these situations, especially a one-stop shop. So that was a huge thing that we learned as we started in the first year.
Well, that's interesting. Your business model kind of started one direction and then went another direction, but that's part of, I guess, building a business is figuring out what your niche market is and who you can help. So I also wanted to ask, Roxanne and I kind of have a joke about partnerships.
Oh, yeah.
We caution people about going into partnerships because we have heard a lot of unfortunate stories about things that didn't work out the way they had hoped they would work out. So we always advise our clients, if they want to go into partnership, to make sure they get a partnership agreement written up by an attorney because the attorneys think of all the what ifs. Share with us what's made your partnership so successful.
Yeah, it's a great question and it's a great point. And, we share the same philosophy that partnerships can be risky. I think, our partnership was built on a solid foundation. Obviously, we've known each other for decades and we worked together hand in hand at our prior company for 5 years. So we kind of saw firsthand what our values were, what our work ethic was, kind of what our vision long-term was. So I think kind of having those baseline principles in place made the partnership a lot easier. I think the other thing that's been great for us is we know what our strengths and weaknesses are, and we each have very defined lanes about what we are bringing to the table for our businesses. So there isn't a lot of crossover and stepping on toes and some of the infighting that maybe other partnerships come up with, more or less because the skills aren't redundant here. I know nobody can sell Homestretch better than Nick. I know he is the big idea energy person. He's great with the clients. Nick knows kind of what my lanes are. And that allows us to have a very healthy functioning partnership. And I think the final thing is we just trust each other implicitly. We both know that we're all going to do what's right in, the business's collective best interests. I don't lose any sleep thinking about where Nick's head at. He probably feels the same way about me. And I think just overall, we won't be where we are without our partnership. So I think when it works well, it's kind of the sum of the parts is bigger than the whole. And I think that's what it is with Homestretch.
Oh, would you add anything?
It also helps when you have, kind of a North Star. And our North Star is, being the leader in the home preparation service space. That's the market that we want to own. We want to dominate it. And so we stay focused on that. So, I remember when we started the business, was it 6 years ago? And a friend of ours, a colleague that we used to work together, he goes, I know, I love Derek. He's a great guy. Just know, anytime you get in a partnership, there will be fights. Like, you guys are going to fight. It's just part of a partnership. It's going to happen. And 6 years in, I mean, we've not agreed on certain things, but we've never had a fight. We just always keep in mind the bigger picture. Does this little thing matter? Probably not. Let's move on. Let's get past it. Let's focus on the meat and potatoes. Let's focus on the big stuff that moves the needle. Sometimes people get caught up in minutia, stuff that doesn't matter. We both have that North Star. Does this matter to make us the leader in this space? If the answer is no, then let's move on and not argue about it, So it's been pretty easy to work that way, and knock on wood. We haven't had any fights. 5 years into a partnership, running a business that's in, over 25, 30 cities, and no arguments. So we tend to make things easy on ourselves if we can. Life's already hard enough without, no need to add, extra drama for no reason.
That's a great story.
Yep. And it makes perfect sense. So good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Because not every partnership can say that, for sure. So that was great advice. Are there any other tips that maybe a prospective franchisee or a prospective Homestretch franchisee that you might want to share? Anything?
We can go on for days on advice.
Yeah.
One of the things that we always try to kind of preach internally, and this is something that's probably applicable to any entrepreneur or any future franchise owner, is, have a long-term outlook. Like, you do need to kind of have that North Star that you're always looking at, which is going to guide decision-making for you. So we try to coach our franchisees a lot of, what we're trying to do is think, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead in our decision-making, not necessarily, 1 week, 1 month. So have that long-term outlook. Invest back in your business and really understand why you got into this thing in the first place. And for our franchisees, it's to build that empire. So when you kind of have that North Star, like Nick mentioned, that's thing to look at, it does make your decision making a lot easier. It makes it more consistent. And ultimately, it's going to position your business a lot better years down the road. And that's what we wholeheartedly believe in. It's what we practice and what we're trying to teach to all of our franchisees.
I like that.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think sometimes too many people are just short-sighted and not looking at the big picture. So it's a really good reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would add, being in entrepreneurship for 10 plus years, I'd add focus on the solutions. A lot of people will focus on the problems and what they don't have and what is going on here, what is going on there. And they're not focusing on the solutions. At this point, you could drop anything on Derek and I of something that has happened in a home, because you see a lot. You're getting a look into people's personal lives as you're doing these projects, as you're emptying their homes and painting them and carpeting them. Sometimes the clients live there. Sometimes they have 5 kids, 3 dogs, and a parrot and a cat. And you really gotta hold their hands for a couple of weeks to get through this project. So we'll get something like, nothing really surprises us anymore. It's just, okay, here's the problem. And our first thought is, what's the solution and how can we make the situation better?
That's awesome, because you could get so stuck and buried in the problem that you can't see past it. So
yeah, there's no business that's not going to have problems.
Right.
And if there is, let me know about it. I'd love to join. They're all going to have issues, and it's just focus on the solutions and then just do what's right at the end of the day, because stuff will go wrong, and put yourself in the client's shoes. And what kind of customer service would you expect if you were the client in that situation? So I always try to put ourselves in the opposite perspective as well, which really helps.
Great advice. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us. Well, if someone wanted to get a hold of you or learn more about Homestretch, how would they do that?
Yeah, you can go to our website, and we have information on, connecting with Nick and I directly. If you're interested in learning more about the franchise opportunities, John Taylor at the Repum Group is phenomenal, and he can be your person to kind of take you through the process. So either avenue is great. We're always here. We love talking to people. We love talking about our story. We love trying to identify the next great candidates to join our network. So please reach out.
Thank you for joining us today. We know you're busy. We know you've had a long day. You flew. So we appreciate your time and you sharing your story with us.
Our pleasure.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
For those of you listening, thank you for joining us and learning more about Homestretch. If you would be so kind to follow Sara and I on LinkedIn, we're very active there. I'm Roxanne Rapske, Rapske, Sara with no H, Waskow, Waskow. You can learn more about us at frannet.com and on our YouTube channel at Frannet of Dallas, Fort Worth, and Oklahoma. Lastly, you can find Unpredicted Entrepreneur anywhere you like to listen to your podcasts. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.